Are you feeling like you lost your sensual power? Stay tuned because here you will discover how to take it back with the Dominatrix Trifecta. I'm Candia Raquel, and you are at the Sensual Sessions Podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that it's free from inhibition and full of self expression. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to my website so you get these episodes delivered on your inbox every week. It's my name, candiaraquel.com, www.candiaraquel.com. And today we have a very special guest. This is Mistress Malissia Belovsky, and she's a professional dominatrix. And I am very honored to have you here, Malissia. Welcome.
Hi, Candia. Gracias. Thank you so much for having me.
Es un gran placer. So I am really curious how come you know so much about life and you are so young? Like, are you a vampire?
Maybe I am. I don't know if I'm that young. I'm 33 years old, but I have a lot of lived experience. Let's say it like that.
So, talking about lived experience, do you feel that you were born a dominatrix or you became a dominatrix?
What a beautiful question. So I actually love using the term mistress in terms of
Okay.
the nuance. I see dominatrix more as the mistress when she's in her scene, in her session, playing, working. Whereas the mistress to me is a woman mastering her life, dominating her life. And it's kind of the feminine word of master. So I have always been a very dominant personality. I've always been very bossy. I've always been very assertive. And when the world of the dominatrix found me, it felt like when Cinderella found her shoe. It was just perfectly fit for me.
Okay, so you had like that temperament since you were little or a teenager, like you were like always in your power. Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people that know how to wield power had become empowered after being disempowered in their own lives. But at the same time, like you cannot bring forth, I believe, something that you don't already have within you. So can you recall like one experience where you said like, okay, this is it, this is for me, this is my true calling. I I am a mistress at heart.
Yes, so when you say disempowered, to me, it doesn't mean it's someone that doesn't have power. It's someone that has given their power away. So we all have power. And I feel like normally as children, we're very empowered because we're not conscious of the fact that our power can be taken away. But then something may occur where you become disempowered. And this world, this practice, the mistress identity allows you to reclaim that power back, ideally. So I have been disempowered in my life as well. I have experienced giving my power away. I have experienced losing power and feeling like it's not mine to own, and to then gaining that power back. So when I first started working as a professional dominatrix in 2017 is when I got to really tap into a side of me that was always there. And I always speak of the mistress as an extension of who we are, not a role we play, but the extension of us that gets to speak up what she wants, what she means unapologetically. So through the roles that we play, we get to actually play who we really are. But we don't need to take on full responsibility of our desires because it's through another identity. And I felt like she gave me permission to voice my true desires, my real boundaries, and to put my foot down where I want to put it down. And that unleashed ultimately the true domina and mistress in me, which then translates into how I am in everyday life. Because once I realize what I want, then I'm like, oh, this is actually what I want. It's just now I don't have any more shame about it.
Owning your desires and owning your pleasure. I love what you say, that it's not like wearing a mask per se. It's like, yeah, you step into a role, but it's more like you uncover an aspect that perhaps was hiding in the closet or was shamed because culture that says, for example, here in Mexico, we are indoctrinated that women have to be submissive by default to their cheating husband, and they have to raise their kids alone and all that crap. And I feel that it's great that that taking your power back is not about becoming someone else, but actually allowing for a part of you, the empowered part, to own their identity and desires. So I am curious also about the state of disempowerment, of giving away our power. Why do you think, or yeah, why do you think people give their power away? Like,
So
do you get something back from giving your power away? Is it at least a transaction?
So sometimes it comes from a situation where you have someone that is, as you view them, more powerful. It could be your child, they're a parent, they have more authority, so therefore they have more power. And then when they refuse you something, or they punish you, or they scold you for something, then they hold that power over you. And you may be in a situation where then you start feeling like you're restricted. And that sort of restriction feels like a form of bondage. And we keep that growing up. And as we keep that growing up, it translates into situations where when someone who has more authority, or that we view them as having more authority, starts speaking up, we start suddenly close, because we're scared that, we carry that with us. By carrying things with us, it's almost as if we keep giving our power away to the person who initially, when we were very young, took it. Or if you think about a woman who's been abused, and in that situation something non-consensual happened, she couldn't react, she couldn't stop it, then her power can never really leave her power doesn't leave her, but that person overpowered her. But then from that place, if she keeps living small, quiet, and scared, it's as if this person is still holding that power, she's still giving that power away. So they're ultimately taking more than what they actually took, because you keep giving it to them even if it's not applying anymore. So when we speak of taking our power back, it's more about remembering that our power never left, and power regenerates. But to cut the cord with, okay, this teacher, this religious figure, this parent, this ex-boyfriend, whatever, when they performed this act, or when they did or said something, that in that moment like shut me down, or didn't allow me to be fully expressed, or to voice my needs or desires or boundaries. But that doesn't mean that now in the present moment I can't. But if I still operate from that place, that's how I'm still giving my power away to these figures.
Wow, it brings me to the idea of maturity and taking ownership for who you are and owning your own authority. Like, yeah, I might have been disempowered in the past, but that doesn't mean that because I had no choice, like it was like an accident. But that doesn't mean that every time I have a boyfriend, I am still dating the same old person and repeating the same pattern. But then breaking the pattern and cutting the cord at the same time, like, might be scary because at least that sort of abuse was familiar. So, what is something that can help people be like more creative and maybe more curious to step out of the comfort zone of the uncomfort of giving the power again, one and again and again and again? Like, how you break that pattern?
So first of all, you need to be aware you have that pattern.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you're not aware, you're still giving your power away without knowing. So it's almost like electricity. If you don't know where you're spending all this electricity and you just receive the bill and you're like, oh my God, I owe so much money, but then you don't look into what actually wastes all that electricity and you just end up paying it, then you're never going to really learn to be aware of what is wasting, draining you and that electricity as a metaphor. Also, BDSM is a great way for people to explore sides of themselves that are like that, kept in the shadow. So what we're not aware of is what's in our shadow. And there's ways to be able to take ownership of the shame. So we all have a shame. You know, BDSM is all about playing with shame. So if you were scolded as a child, you carry shame. If you were mistreated by a boyfriend, it creates also shame. A lot of things create that shame. So then in a context where shame is eroticized, it suddenly becomes a gateway or a way to bypass the discomfort of the shame, but making it very appealing. So if you were punished a lot for being a bad girl when you were a kid, because you disobeyed, because you did what you wanted, because you didn't follow the rules, then in a context of BDSM, receiving pleasure in a way that's like, I'm gonna punish you for being a bad girl, but what I'm doing to you is pleasurable, then you don't hold that shame anymore of this is bad, I'm not actually punished, I'm suddenly excited about the punishment. So it allows you to kind of reclaim the power that you gave away at that point. Or if during that context, you always were forced into being a good girl and to behave a certain way and to be subservient and quiet and to be a peacemaker and please everyone, well then in the erotic context you could be that and be told that you're such a good girl, but at the same time the acts that are being performed with you are acts that are highly erotic and exciting to you, not something you actually don't want to do, and you voice how much you love it, being sometimes forced to voice how much you love it. So then you take ownership of your desires and your pleasure in that moment instead of being punished for it. So I believe BDSM is an extremely powerful way to play with our shadows, and it brings that awareness if we're willing to look into beyond play.
Wow, I had no idea. And I love this way of reframing shame in such a way that it's, yeah, like you are getting into a situation where shame is eroticized, but you are willingly and consensually entering into that situation, meaning that you are in control. Like, yeah, there can be a situation of shaming, but it's not that I am a victim like I have been in the past, but I am actually going for it and experiencing, and I know I know the bounds of it, so it gives the sensation, and it actually gives you the control of it. You are in control. So this is very interesting because even as a submissive person that it's there to please, it's doing it from a place of decision and ownership instead of being forced as in the past. So yeah,
I mean,
I
already
never
the
thought.
submissive holds a lot of power because first the submissive chooses who they relinquish their power to, which already having the power of choice is huge. So they're not just there, someone taking them like, I'm going to do that to you. No, they go out of their way to find the right person that will hold that power over them, that they will relinquish their power to. So they already choose who they want, and then they voice what they want. They share ultimately their secret desires about it, which forces them to voice something that's secret, which no longer makes it secret, which makes you own them. And then you're exposing that to someone you trust and who's there to actually welcome them and create a whole scene around them so that you can play them out and you get to really be experiencing the things that usually are hidden and shameful from a place of, oh, now this shame is this dissolved and dissipated because now it's welcome, it's seen, it's in the light, it's not hidden, and it's expressed and it's enjoyed. Because you know, a dominatrix, when someone expresses something that they're very ashamed of, she's not gonna be like, oh, you like that? She's gonna be like, tell me more. So she's gonna bring out more of it. She's gonna open up the possibility to showcase who you are, not close it down. But in the everyday life, a lot of these people do feel scared of being judged or rejected or shamed even more for those desires. And that's why they go see a woman they know will not do that. And then if she does shame them, it's through the lens of play and pleasure. So if she's like, oh, you like being spanked? You're such a bad boy. So you make it like fun and not actually you're being spanked because you're disgusting and you deserve like to be punished in a way that I'm absolutely like looking down on you. It's role play. So it allows both parties to express sides of themselves that there's no other or more perfect context to do that. And once it's seen and it's done and it's expressed, and you've seen yourself in that way, then you can't unsee it. Then suddenly it doesn't hold that much power over you anymore.
Yeah, it's almost as if secrets bound to shame, hidden in the dark and buried, hold power over us. It's like that's how we like bleed out and lose our power. And what I am understanding is that the role play in BDSM is like bringing those like demons to the light, and when those secrets are exposed, they lose their power because like it's there in the open. I have nothing to hide. You have nothing to coerce me with. And on the contrary, like it's celebrated that you show those aspects of you, and almost as if those inner demons were made of ice and you bring them to the light, and then they melt. It's no what you have been shamed for in the past that create like a kink in you and held power over you. Once it's exposed, it loses their power. It becomes like another toy from your toolbox to play in the sandbox of adult pleasure. And it's like, oh my God, what a great reframe. What made me suffer, it's like, that's true power. What made me suffer, it's now a tool for, it's just another tool for my pleasure. Almost like this saying from Nietzsche that what doesn't kill you make you stronger. It's like, okay, it's great to have this space to alchemize something that was so unbearable and painful to actually make you freer and stronger. So yeah, I am very curious about submissive men. I don't know if they are men that are submissive all over the place in their lives and with their wives and with their mothers, or are like very powerful men that in their real life they are like exerting their power and they need to rebalance. Or yeah, okay. Is there something you can tell us about?
Yes, of course. So first, the part you said before is something I speak about a lot, which is alchemizing your pain into power. So shame creates pain, you know, and it's in life you're either driven by avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. So when something's painfully controlling you and you're not aware of it, it holds you in a form of bondage. Once you are free from it because you see it now and you're like, oh, it's just this, let me play with it, like you said, like a new toy, a new tool, suddenly you alchemize it into power. And in regards to men, honestly, there's the whole spectrum. So you can have men that are very submissive by nature. It's just their personality. They're not someone that likes to be in control. They don't like to lead. They don't like to be in power positions. They like having someone that takes charge, and they're better at executing orders. Then you have people that are very like this, but they are in powerful positions at work, for example. So they have to perform this role to keep up with their position at work and the expectations and the pressure. So then they want in their private life to finally let go and be themselves. And then there's those that are very powerful all over the place, very alpha men, and they seek in their intimacy someone with who they can let go and also trust that they can lead. And it's even like exciting to them that they get to be like turned from a lion to a kitty with this one person they chose. That's the only person they get to see the side of them. So there's different types of people. And then there's the ones that are alpha and they don't want anything to do with being submissive in any way. And they're holding on to this as if their identity suddenly is seen in another way, their ego will be crushed. And that's like a huge identity crisis. But for those that go see a dominatrix, clearly they want to explore a side of themselves, and it's strong enough that they are willing to pay and seek the right person. And then there's all sorts of them. There's also those that just love pleasing a woman. That brings them so much pleasure to see the woman being happy, the women being served. It feels like a mission to them to please and worship the feminine, whereas others are more self-serving. They're there to fulfill their own kinks and fetishes, and they see you as a service provider, and they expect you to play out their fantasy, and they don't really care about what you're into. So there's different profiles.
It's a very wide menu. It's interesting what you said about these alpha males that don't want to see or have anything to do with role play or submissiveness, because that would precisely mean a threat to their ego. So it's like perhaps they are not real, perhaps they are putting a facade, because if you are like confident in you and your multiplicity of aspects, like why wouldn't you let one aspect of yourself come out to play? And here's my next question. Do you have to be either a dom or a sub, or like, here's the question. Do you have a mini secret sub side in you, or are you 100% dominatrix?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. So during my mistress journey, I call it the mistress journey, which is ultimately your hero's journey into stepping into your mistress identity. I used to be very tomboy, and so tomboy, only dating women, being very dominant, and I had no interest in the other side at all. And the more I was becoming stronger, confident, and self-aware and desiring to discover all parts of myself, the more I started becoming curious about the other side, especially from seeing how my submissives were experiencing these transcending states that I'm like, wow, they're like floating in space. What's going on? I started developing curiosity. And what I realized is that a lot of people have just both sides. Some have stronger one side, some stronger another. But it really lays in the ability to trust the person you're with, to let go with them. So even if we think of the submissives that go see a dom, as I said previously, they choose who they go see, and they first assess, they look, they research, they read, they want to make sure they can trust. And the more they're dominant in their everyday life, the more you will have to earn their trust. The more they're naturally submissive, the less they test you. So I'm a very naturally dominant person. Like I have a lot of the boss energy. And for me to discover the other side, I had to experience it with someone that I really would trust to let go with. And the first time I tried, I was still very controlling, in the sense that I was the one that determined the parameter of play. I want this, I want it like this, I don't want this, da da da. And the person was actually my personal submissive. And he was someone that became eventually my lover. And I asked him to top me as a service to myself. So I was like, I want to experience this. I have complete trust in you. And I'm curious to see how it would feel. And because of our dynamic, I felt safe enough to do that. And he knew it's there as a service to me, and not just me like completely being his submissive. So then I explored that, and I thought, wow, there's so much power in letting go. Like just being someone that holds control all the time. When you completely let go, you really understand the psychology of the other person. So I became more and more curious about that. And I started paying attention even to how I dominate now that I know how the other side feels. And I consider myself a switch. which means I can play both roles. Definitely more dominant than the other side, but certain people arrive to bring me to that state, but it has to be like safety, trust, and these things. It's like the person that leads, right? If we speak about leadership, when someone leads, for someone to want to follow, it means that this person is really in control and they know where they're going, they know what they're doing. But if they have no idea what they're doing, you can't really let go and be like, oh, you've got me. It's like, no, especially if I'm naturally dominant, I will subconsciously take the lead because I know I've got it. So for the person to make me feel like I really got it, they have to have that confidence, which is something you build. And the mistress has to have that when she has the submissive. So when we see submissive men, sometimes what they call top from the bottom is usually because they don't trust your dominance. They don't trust your leadership, and they're testing to see how much can they let go and how much are you really in charge. And any person that's naturally a little bit dominant will do that because it's normal. We're naturally leading. If you even think about someone that always drives a car and now they're in the passenger seat, they naturally will be turning heads and commenting because that's just the state they're used to. And for them to just sit back and relax, and for the other person to drive, the driving has to be up to the standard of the person who's normally driving or better. But if they're distracted and then the other person like, look, I'm gonna drive. And it's the same in this context as well.
Well, I feel that that's exactly how it should be for women in general. For women that are naturally inclined to submissiveness, they should have like this core of dominance to assess if the one that is stopping and leading really has the ability to do so, because it's like, oh my God, like you're on the, I am letting you come into my space as if my body was a car for you to drive me to paradise and ecstasy, and you don't fucking know how to like change lines or pass a truck, or like, I mean, we are in danger, so how are you gonna let go?
Yes.
And I think that's something that we are culturally missing, that proper assessment, and that having that inner power of saying like, no, like I prefer to drive myself while I find someone that can lead me. And yeah, this is fantastic. It's almost as if the submissive has the final veto of saying, yes, I let you take me. So it's like it's the final word. There's a lot of power of saying it goes or it doesn't go. And I am like, I finally understood the yin yang in this moment because you have like this circle that is the yin with this circle of yang, and then you have the yang of the circle of yin. So the dominant person, like you were dominating and you were like, wow, like these guys are reaching another level of pleasure. I want to see what is to be on the other side. So it's like, wow, even being dominant, you need to know what it's like to be on the shoes of the other person, to take them to where they want to go and where you want to take them. So I'm fascinated because, yeah, it's like the submissive, it's submissive to the other and it's on the service of the other, but the dominant is also at the service of the submissive in this way. Like, I am serving you by leading you and by beholding the river banks and the structure and the itinerary and the protocol, so you flow. So this is
Yes.
fascinating.
So the dom's role is really to hold space on top of leading. And there is a difference between submitting and surrendering. So when you think of
Wow.
the submissive, there is a power play that happens where it feels like they're forced. So get on your knees, or you have to do that, or like these commands. which feel like they're forceful, even if it's consensual. And in that scene, it's like as if I'm forcing you into something, as if you don't want to be doing it, even if clearly you want to be doing it, you're paying to be doing it. But then you kind of submit to the order and you're like, oh, I have to do this. Then, okay, I'm going to do it. But it's a very different energy with someone that is like an erotic leader and someone that surrenders to their leadership. So these sessions have this nuance that, yes, is about trust, but is also at what level of shame are we playing? Because someone who holds a lot of shame will require to be forced into things so that they don't take responsibility for the desires they have. So if we say, for example, men that have fantasies about sucking another guy's cock, for example, they're not gay, but they have these fantasies. But they would never own that. They don't want to say that, because then what would that mean about them? So if the mistress is like, now you have to suck my cock, now you have to do this, then they're like, if mistress makes me do it, I have to do it. So that's then I'm submitting to the orders. But if we play at another level where we know that you're a cocksucker because you love it, then it's more like you're going to surrender to the experience. And part of the experience is that this is going to be happening and unfolding. And you're going to follow my lead because you trust me. And we don't need to have that forcefulness. But as I said, there's different levels. There's even the level of what we call consensual non-consent, which is like a very forceful session that feels like you're abused and forced into something you really don't want. But that's pre-negotiated, which means that I already know that ultimately you do want it, but we have to play it as if you really don't want and it's forced upon you. So you get to actually let go and explore those desires without being so ashamed that they prevent you from exploring them. So there's a lot of complexities.
Yeah, well, I love it because it's also a safe playground for a fragile ego. It's like, okay, you still think that wanting to suck dicks makes you gay because whatever the society told you that you're gay, even though that you do love your wife and family and you wouldn't really like to suck a real cock, but you are, it turns you on to suck a plastic cock or whatever. And it's like, if it's like in this context, your ego and your identity as a CEO or whatever is safe, and you can air and express and live your desires, so they are not like little monsters that suddenly explode out there or cause you like a somatic illness because you are not embodying them. And at the same time, it's a place to develop, first to be curious about you, and then to really know yourself and accept yourself. And what is very important at the core is to really respect who you are unconditionally. Like, okay, I have this desire and I'm gonna have no opinion and no judgment around that. It's just a desire that I have, and it's an expression of the mystery that I am. And it's like, oh wow, it's very interesting, and I have this, and then if I see it for what it is, then I can decide as an adult if I want to take action on it. And it feels so liberating, because otherwise people is making a mess in their lives, like in the reality of their lives, because they are not seeing their desires like in the face, and they are not deciding, and they are not acting therefore as adults. So
Yeah, it takes a
it's
radical,
fantastic.
it leads to this radical self-acceptance, which means
Yeah.
you completely own yourself. You own your pleasure, you own your pain, you own your shame, you own all of it, which makes you a very powerful person. So that's why a lot of people who are naturally very powerful are attracted to this world, is because leaving a scene like this only makes you more powerful. Like your confidence is not unshakable because now you have this conviction about yourself that has been developed. And it's like, I know that I can be humiliated, degraded, treated this way, and look at that, I took it all. And I was able to transcend my ego So then when you go into the real world and you experience harsh challenges, suddenly you know your power, you know your strength, you know how much you can take.
Yeah, it's also like a training space for real life, a safe training space for real life where humiliation it's not a role play, it's or a power game, or there are high stakes for real and taking very hardcore decisions that may shape not only your life but the future of a company or the path of your family or whatever. And I love the a concept that you have that is the Mistress Trifecta on embodying three important
Energy.
energies that we all have and that they are like important for role play. And I feel that not only for BDSM but they are important for life. Would you share more about that with us?
Yes, so I have this concept of how do we build the mistress identity? How can we tap into that identity, that side of us? And the first two that came to me was like the one that comes naturally to me is the boss. And that's usually the one we associate with the dominatrix. So the one that commands, the one that is in charge, the one that leads, the one that gives instructions, the ones that performs certain acts on someone and she's doing things to them. So that's one of the energies. But a very important energy to be a mistress is also the goddess energy, which is the one that will receive. She will receive the money that she's paid. She will receive the service. She will receive worship. So ultimately, to be able to receive, you have to be more in the goddess energy and not just always doing. And the goddess is more in the being. She just is divine. She doesn't have to do anything to be worshipped. She's worshipped because she's divine. So even just the value of your presence, the feeling of like, I know my worth, like it all, this is the foundational actually energy, because otherwise you're constantly performing, which subconsciously is almost like you need to do that to know that you're worthy of everything they're giving you, as much the compliments as the gifts, as the let me make you a drink acts of service. To receive all that, a lot of women feel like I need to do something in exchange, or I owe them something, or that's too much. So then they're not tapped into that goddess. So it starts with the goddess, the self-worth we have, the knowing of our value. Once we have that knowing, that conviction, and like just my presence is a present, everything then that I do is a gift to them, not something that they should expect, and that, you know, without it, it's like the session didn't occur and it's bad, which even brings us to like normal sex. Like if you think of vanilla normal sex, the woman feeling like she needs to perform so many acts and to make sure the guy came, and if he didn't come then it wasn't successful, but she doesn't really think about her pleasure, her receiving. She's only focused outwards on them, and then she feels used and she feels like she owes them something if they give her too much pleasure for too long. She's like, okay, now I need to do this to him so that he also receives. So the mistress is very grounded in her value and her self-worth, and everything she gives, whether it's like a 1 hour bondage session where she's doing a lot, she's not doing it because she feels like she has to. She's doing it because she wants to, because she knows what she wants. And the wanting and the desires is the siren energy. And I think every mistress has to have siren energy. The siren energy is pretty much your sexual energy. So if you're not a very sexually like connected person, if you don't know your pleasure, if you don't know what you desire, if you're not turned on by life, by yourself, by what's occurring in the session, if you're not like switched on, you're not really going to have a lot of fun. It's not going to be pleasurable for anyone. You're not really at the right place. You have to have, you know, quite some sexual energy to be able to be in this industry, the sex work industry, or even to be into BDSM, because BDSM, the most sexual organ is the brain. So for you to be stimulated mentally, you are stimulated in ways where you're very aware of your sexual power, and all that seduction that occurs, all of that exchange that is erotic, that's the siren. So once you have that erotic power sexual power, with the worthiness of the goddess, and the confidence of, I know I can lead, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, of the boss, you have the mistress trifecta.
Yeah, it's a perfect trifecta. And yes, of course, this is basic to be a mistress. I get it, but I feel that we all, especially women, should like empower our inner mistress and for life, because it's like, okay, you are living in a situation where you are not fulfilled, but like you don't want to take charge of your own situation. Like, hey, babe, you need to develop your inner boss, and you need to be able to stand on your ground and know what you're doing, and like control yourself. And at the same, and then also be able to step, or not to step, to have also that brimming energy of the goddess that is open to receive. So it's not transactional, because like, yeah, I get it, like there's like this understanding that the women have to be caregivers also on intimacy, like pleasing the man and doing everything for the man. And then it, even having an orgasm as a woman becomes like a burden that you need to comply with in order to make the man feel satisfied and like he's a great man because he made you come. And it's like, and where's your pleasure? And that's the siren. Like, hey, like, am I doing this because of duty, or am I doing this because I am an adult and I am owning my desires and I am going for it because I want it? So yeah, how did you came to this trifecta? I am impressed.
So it was because in the beginning I was seeing it more as masculine, feminine energy. So I saw it as, wow, the mistress has a very good balance of feminine and masculine energy. And
Yes.
it even came from the fact that a lot of women in this industry use their dominatrix persona to almost play out the toxic masculine type
Yeah.
of dominance that usually we are in this industry to kind of rewrite to this. So if a lot of women have been hurt by men or have seen bad dominance that is toxic, now they enter the femdom world and they just play out the same thing on men. And that's where I was thinking, okay, but that type of masculine, like a lot of masculine energy, the boss now, is very toxic. And I think it's because there's not enough of the feminine. So then I was like, okay, we need a balance of the masculine and the feminine. If it's too masculine, then it's toxic. But it's
Yes.
beyond that, because the boss has a shadow side, the goddess has a shadow side, and the siren has a shadow side. So when we don't own our boss, when we don't own our goddess, when we don't own our siren, then comes the mean mistress. Then comes like passive aggressiveness. Then comes trying to control, when you're entitled, when you feel like you're superior to everyone, people owe you things. So it's really about the embodiment of these energies, is like taking ownership of your desires, ownership of who you are. And it allows you to be this benevolent mistress, this mistress that is ultimately there to empower you, to guide you, to allow you to unfold and break down, and she's going to rebuild you. But I've seen a lot of women break down people and leave them broken and hurt men who are very weak. And that's why I was thinking, when I started teaching, I'm like, how can I teach someone to be this mistress that actually would be not only positive but healthy, let's say it like that, like a healthy mistress. And I tried to tap into how I do things, and I'm like, okay, I have a good balance of the feminine and the masculine, and I developed that after 6 years of practicing. So at first I was calling it the masculine feminine balance. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to give names to that feminine and masculine. And because in this world there's a lot of like goddess worship, we call that a lot. So in the femdom world, you have a lot of people that book you for goddess worship. And a lot of titles, you have mistress, you have goddess, you have queen. So it's one of the titles we see the most. And to me, that energy of the goddess is divinity. Like if we think of divinity and the sacredness of this world and how you approach a divine being with an offering, and how you know they're superior to you, but from a place of respect, not from a place of, oh, they are superior to me. So all of that was like, okay, that's the goddess. And the boss, like boss energy, like women are always told they're too bossy. And I'm like, no, let's own that. We are capable of being the boss. We are trusting ourselves to be in control. That's actually a really good thing. We're not trying to control others. We just have a lot of self-control. And then it was just the boss and the goddess. And then I was like, yeah, but there's the missing piece, which is the main piece that goes no matter, like it's like an energy that touches both, and it's the energy of the siren. And that's because I always saw my sexual seductive energy as the energy of the siren, from the Robert Greene The Art of Seduction book. And in all the profiles, my profile was the siren. And I thought, after reading everything, that the siren is actually a very strong profile for a mistress in general. But I called it the siren because that's what I identified with. And there are some women that are more introverted, that are more other types of seductresses. But if we call the energy of the siren, we all can understand that, because the mistress is the one that pulls you in. She doesn't chase you. She pulls you in, she attracts you, and she knows how to seduce you in a way that then it becomes like, I'm gonna like destroy you, like the mermaid, but in a very consensual, playful, fun way, and then rebuild you. And that's where it came.
Love it, love it. Do you have a little exercise you could share with us to embody this Mistress Trifecta and reclaim our power back?
So there's different exercises I do for each one of them. So right now in my community Dom space, we did the Mistress Trifecta experience, and each one had their own exercise. So I'm going to share one that I think was a big highlight that people loved. And it's to create an altar for yourself in your own home. And in that altar, you want to be able to ultimately, like, how can you be worshipped by someone else if you don't even see your own value? So on the altar, we were putting, okay, like anything that's meaningful to you, but also like an amount of money, and an amount of money that gets you excited. So if you're someone that you find a $5 bill and you're like, oh my God, $5, it's perfect. If it's like $100 bill and you're like, yes, $100. So put money on there. It's like, I'm receiving this money, it's already mine. But also putting something that reminds you of your siren. So it could be a perfume that's very sexy that you like. It could be a red lipstick, something like this. So putting elements like the money, the lipstick, and one important part that I told them to put is a framed photo of their inner child. Because a lot of the time we start getting in like mistress mode, but we forget that ultimately the desires come from that little girl, and that every time we're like talking down on ourselves, punishing ourselves, doing all these things, we're not honoring her. So I thought, okay, how can we see beyond just who we are now and how that links to who we've always been? And if we have this inner child on our altar, we always are in devotion to her. We're in devotion to this girl, and we see who she is now, and everything we're doing it for her. And you get to really see yourself as this being that is worthy of that devotion, of receiving, of being treated like this, because now you have your own altar. You do that as a self-devotion practice, and not only expecting others to treat you in a way that you don't treat yourself. Then I have a lot of exercises about things that you would wear and in what context you would wear them and what you would do while you're wearing them and things like this. I love to play with embodiment exercises like this. But another one would be, for example, to have a session with yourself and to practice this internal power exchange between your inner mistress and your inner sub, and to ultimately dominate yourself. And to dominate yourself from a place of how much do you trust your inner mistress to lead? Or how much do you trust her to surrender? And how far are you willing to go with you? And that exercise is more complex, but we have it in the Dominatrix Academy, and it's been the most incredible not results, but feedback I've received from that exercise of really exploring how far you're willing to go with you, and to create an actual scene and session to bring that out. So it's not just like, okay, well, let me do it now. It's like creating a ritual, creating the scene, dressing up for it. How does your mistress tell you to dress up? What does she want you to do? Are you obeying? Are you becoming a brat that resists? How does that transfer into other places in your life where you don't listen to yourself? You're like, oh, I want to have this discipline. I want to go to the gym. And then you're like, not today. I'm not going to do it. So that self-trust is built in how your inner mistress and inner sub interact in that internal infrastructure and power dynamic. How much do you listen to yourself, obey yourself, trust yourself, and allow yourself to lead, follow the lead, execute well, make sure you're pleased, all these things. And that can happen very fast with just a pleasure practice around like submitting to yourself sexually and exploring how far you're willing to go. And then after you've done that, you can dress in lingerie, and on top of it, put like a blazer suit. So you have the lingerie, but then you have the suit, and go into a place that you would see your mistress go out with, and just walk with the energy of, I know what I just did, and I was very naughty. You know, that wicked woman energy.
Wow, wow, wow. This is a fantastic practice ritual of self-trust, self-devotion, and self-integrity in the way of integrating all aspects in yourself in a way that feels good, like by listening to yourself and also obeying and being consequent, being congruent. And I love like this practice of self and total ownership. And that's where I feel comes the confidence to come forth into the world and show up as you are. And then people will reflect from that. And I feel that you will also be in a position to relate to other people from this integrity and congruency. Like you don't expect people to behave or to do things that you wouldn't expect for yourself. So there's like a basis of, yeah, integrity. And wow, I am loving it. This conversation is already life changing for me, Malicia. I am very thankful for your sharing. Thank you for being here at the Sensual Sessions podcast.
It is my pleasure.
So tell us, how can we get in touch with you, learn more about the Dominatrix Academy?
So the Dominatrix Academy is my signature program for training women in the art of female domination. And it is a program that begins on the 8th of August on the Lionsgate portal. It's mostly self-led at this point, but it's hosted inside of my community space and mastermind. So you still have access to me and all the graduates of past academies and the whole community. We have 110 people in the community now. And therefore you get to really walk on this mistress journey, not alone, but with everyone, and to share your experience, be supported, receive guidance, advice, feedback, all of these things. And it's about 5 months to complete the program. There's a lot of mistress missions and dom work, like the one I just gave you. And it's a very in-depth program that covers everything from your mindset to the embodiment, to the fetishes and kinks and psychology, to the sacred practice, to the business side of things. It's the most full-on program, and it's really built in a way that's, you know, connected to personal development. So then you step into that identity that then transcends play. And I say we can go beyond impact play. Like we actually can play in the real world with everything you're going to learn. So this is the main program that I have for DOMs, or those that are interested in this work and interested in this the way of living as well.
This way of living. And so how can they get apply for being
You can
in
just,
the program?
it's just dominatrixacademy.com.
Dominatrix Academy. Great. Thank you so much, Malicia. This has been great.
Thank you.
And thank you, sensualists, for being on this awesome episode. Go to dominatrixacademy.com and apply to join on this Lionsgate before it's too late, because it will go away soon and it's 5 months long. Also, if you haven't already, go grab the free guide to awaken sensuality. It's on my website, my name, candiaraquel.com, www.candiaraquel.com. Until next time, remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.